Hello, friend. I am making this little video because it has occurred to me that when we are feeling offended by someone, oftentimes they are saying or reflecting something that we are already using our own critical voice towards ourselves in a unloving or unkind way. And so if somebody says something and it maybe has a little barb in the comment, that can feel like something to hold on to, and you know it because it doesn't feel good, and chances are that you've used it on yourself, and you've said those things to yourself about yourself. And so obviously when you hear someone else do it, it doesn't feel good, and it gives you an opportunity to then fight with that person about it, or just choose to, continue not feeling good, right? But what it is for me when I have a moment to get myself together, if I'm having a negative reaction, is it's an opportunity for me to focus on how I want to feel. It's an opportunity for me to revise the critical voice or the narrative around that critical voice to the voice of truth and love and compassion, the voice that will not say hurtful things, right? The voice in our head, in our own heart, that is saying anything but an unwanted thing, or offering an unwanted feeling. And so I've been doing the freeze practice that Neville and Edward Art spoke about, and I like it. I think it's very effective. I found like that I had almost immediate positive results from doing that. And so I'm expanding on it now. I'm expanding on it to include, instead of just one-on-one narratives, where I'm saying something and then, freezing it. Okay, so what I'm doing is, in my mind's eye, or the screen of my mind, I will bring a person to that screen, and then they will say whatever their story is, right? Whatever the unwanted story is. Then I freeze it. I freeze that person, right, into the statue, and then I say what my preferred story is, my narrative, to that person, and I say it from the perspective of the wish fulfilled, right? So it's already, my preference is already fulfilled. So then I unfreeze that person, and I hear that person say back to me the narrative that I spoke to them while they were frozen. And then I just let that go. I just trust that everything surrounding that interaction is a done deal. So today I'm going to expand on some other scenarios and narratives with that, and that's going to include more people. Like I said in one of my videos, that I did I've also got like a round table type, or a long table type of practice where I gather up several people, and then sometimes they're like friends or acquaintances, people that I've heard or I've read things on Facebook that they have issues with or whatever. And then what I'm doing is I'm just going straight to the fulfilled narrative, the one that I know is the true narrative, in the sense of it's coming from a place of love, not fear. It's coming from a place of I am, which is, no lack, where fulfillment is. The beingness of fulfillment itself is the only thing that's coming through. And that's what I'm then sharing or instigating, or it's my intent in that scenario to grant everyone at that table the fulfillment of their desire, as though it is a done deal, it has already come to pass, and then I'll come back or like I could do the freeze where I do that with everyone at the table, and then everyone at the table, unfrozen, tells me how their wish fulfilled has affected them and given them, all these new opportunities, or just they feel so good and such a weight has been lifted from them. So that's how I'm practicing my own sense of allowingness, because I will still at times, find myself in a state of resistance, right, towards someone, something, some situation, or you could say objects, relationships, and experiences, right? You're either in a state of allowing with those things, or you're going to find yourself in a state of resistance, depending on what it is. And let's just say it all boils down to this. One feels good, and one choice feels good, one choice does not feel good. So you can potentially know it by how it feels. It helps if you feel your feelings. and I don't know, I can only talk for myself. That when I feel something that is strong, either way, good or not great, I feel it in my body immediately. I feel the intensity of the feelings in my body, and almost always it's in my chest area or my head, right? And so for me, that is an indicator of what direction or where my focus is. And so so I just wanted to talk briefly about that, because these when you do these kind of practices, the reason why I do them is because I'm still not fully always feeling up to speed with the truth of myself, right? I still sometimes feel these echoes of patterns and narratives that are tied to a negative voice in my own head. And so my whole intent with doing any kind of practice is to not find myself being at the mercy of a narrative that's outside of me, when every narrative is something that I can give to myself, and I don't have to, and it just doesn't depend on anyone else. And so if someone else is saying something, right, that is making your hackles stand up, there's a very good chance that you have already said these things to yourself and you don't feel good about it, and you don't want to believe that that is somehow true about you, or it's just a little something for you to revise because maybe you know it's not true about you. And the fact that someone outside of you thinks something untrue about you, if that is upsetting you, I have found the quickest way to deal with it is to do a revision, to just give myself exactly what I want. And so I think that's why, you know, I've responded really well to some of these practices, which are, you know, it's to help me be persistent and consistent, which I really think those two go hand in hand. It's been very valuable for me, right, to be persistent in my assumptions and to believe them literally, because if I'm not believing in them literally as a fact, as a factual, literal truth, things tend to get muddied up, right? It allows too many little ins and outs for the critical voice to come in and, you know, say its thing, or you know, the echoes of patterns long past from states long past, right, will come up, and they'll be like trying to be like, haha, I have not gone away. And you know, that is a very valid experience that people have when they're recognizing that they have a new preference in where they're headed and what they're doing and how they're choosing experiences for themselves, or how they're choosing how they want to feel, when it's not been the dominant pattern or focus in their life. Then that's when I think, heck yeah, practice is what's going to help. Practice makes perfect. But the beauty of it is you can practice it in your own mind, in your own imagination. You don't have to get out and run 30 miles a day to see a change in your body, right? If you want to feel better, you can actually practice the narrative that you have been running 30 miles a day, and your body will respond to that. It's already been proven, you know, with different things like epigenetics. World-class athletes, they practice in their head. They move through every single, you know, whatever they're doing for their like say downhill skiers. They practice every little nuance that they know they want to do, and they will do that before they go and do the actual actioning of it. And they've done studies on this, and you'll have to look it up if you want to find out what the citations and all that are, but they have done studies, and the athletes that do this practice mentally before they do the actual physical practice or the actual physical action do better, right? They just do better. And so it makes sense. It makes sense. Utilize your imagination, because it's been my experience that is what has given me momentum towards everything wanted. And then if I'm not being persistent and consistent with my intentions and what I'm wanting, I do see how the negative narratives and patterns will want to come back and reestablish themselves. And that is why, Neville and Edward Art talk about the old states dying. Because if they're not dead, they're going to keep coming back. And sometimes, it's almost like, well, it is mostly dead, but I still feel haunted from time to time by these old states, right? But that's where, excuse me, the persistence and the consistency of your practice really helps, because I can tell a difference. I absolutely can tell a difference. If I get up in the morning and I haven't kind of set my intention and established my own personal feeling flow, if I have not done that, it is so much easier for negative narratives and echoes of old states that don't feel good and are unwanted. It is so much easier for those things to come back up into my attention and distract me. I distract myself with those things because I'm the only one giving those things life. They do not function without my attention. Specifically, it takes my attention. I'm the operant power. Without my attention, they're nothing. It's literally nothing. So I'm the only one giving it life, right? I'm the only one giving unwanted things life by giving it my attention. And then once you give it your attention, well, huzzah, it's got free reign to just start throwing all of its crazy crap at you. And I don't know about you, but that's not what I'm interested in. So when something does happen, as I've been moving forward with an immense amount of flow and grace and satisfaction, really, in the last month, I notice it immediately. Sometimes, depending on my attention and, like what I'm doing, sometimes the unwanted can get a little bit of a foothold. But here's the thing. It's not getting one for very long. It's not anywhere near as long and lengthy as it was a month ago. I can promise you, because I've been paying attention, and so I can tell you without a doubt, in my personal experience, when something unwanted now starts coming up and it's coming from other, it's not lasting very long. At all. And that's a good sign, right? That is telling you, hey, what you're doing is working. What you're giving your attention to consistently and persistently, that's working. It's working because you're not in hell, right? You're not having horrible experiences or interactions with people or situations, and honestly, that's what most of us want and need the most help with, is how are we responding to everything outside of us, right? But until you begin responding to yourself and what you're giving to yourself in your inner world, nothing in your outer world really changes in a way that is for me, it's been profound. It's been it's been the difference between day and night, right? Because I'm not experiencing the same kinds of chronic stress, chronically feeling, like I'm not feeling that bounce back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Those patterns seem to be just dissipated. And so then when I say something pops up, and I refer to it as an echo, it's not popping up with the same intensity that it would have even a month ago for me. And it doesn't matter. Whether it's surrounding objects, relationships, or experiences, right? Situations. Across the board, concerning everything outside of myself, the echoes are not the same intensity as the patterns and the narratives that were dominant. For the most part, were mostly dominant because I was having a lot of push and pull, and I was just I could be in a really great mood, and then instantly, that's over. Like those kinds of experiences. So that only changes in my personal experience. For me, that has only changed when I determinedly chose to give myself consistently and persistently what I want on the inner. It has made all the difference. All the difference. I can't emphasize it enough. Start first. This is a nice little quote by Ralph W. Emerson. What we are, that only can we see, right? So, if you're not giving yourself what you want on the inner, to your inner beingness, to the I am that lives in you, in your imagination, if you aren't actively, consistently, persistently doing that, then you're only going to see that which you've been giving to yourself. So in your outer world, that's what you're going to continually have reflected back to you. And that's where it's so, I mean, for me personally, that was the hardest thing, was to just get to the point where I was just like, you know what? I want this. And I realized I needed to be all in. And I needed to give it 100% of my focus and attention, and to be consistent about what it was that I wanted. Otherwise, I knew I was going to continue to just feel like I was going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that after a while, you're going to get like whiplash or something. It's not satisfying to feel good, then not feel good, feel good, then not feel good. And just doing that over and over, just this cycles of just constant states of flux and frustration, and then you trying to, make it better, right? And it just won't stay better. It won't stay better without being very persistent in what you're giving yourself, because you have to be persistent at first. I don't know about you, but it never felt normal for me to wake up and be like, I'm God. What do I want to do today? I'm God. I've got this. This is where I'm at. This is who I am. I'm God. If you have that, I think that's amazing. And you should do it. You should roll with that, because you're going to probably have incredible opportunities, incredible experiences, right? But more importantly, that's what's going to be flowing from the beingness of you. But some of us along the way need help. We need that practice. We need the reminders. We need to continue to remind ourselves that it doesn't have to be, life doesn't have to be a misery. Life doesn't have to be confusing. And more importantly, we don't have to live at the mercy of a past that is no longer in our present. And we don't have to create a future built on the past that is unwanted, and experiences and interactions and situations and whatnot from the past. Like, if that is what you're experiencing, a constant flow from past unwanted into future unwanted, that means that in your present moment, this right here and now, this spacious present moment, is not being tended to lovingly from your own inner beingness by what you're giving to your inner beingness. Your inner being is going to only give you what it is that you're giving to it. So if you're constantly giving your inner being crap from the past, that's what you're going to continue to have reflected to you, is more unwanted, not good feeling, really frustrating stuff, right? Those are going to be your reality. And I have found that as soon as I took 100% responsibility for how I wanted to feel, and then I've been relentless about it, and yeah, I probably look crazy to other people. And here's the thing, I don't care. Do you know why I don't care? Because I feel better than I have felt in not just the last 4 years, right? Especially the last 2. But when I look back on my life, this is the best I've ever felt. This is the most empowered I've ever felt. Of all the tools that I have ever used, that I've ever found, that have ever just presented themselves to me and said, here, do this. This has what has taken those tools and those truths, but it's unfolded and unpacked itself in the most amazing ways, so that I still use tools that help me uncover more of the truth of me. But these teachings, specifically Neville Goddard's teachings, and then the way that Edward Art unpacks Neville Goddard's teachings, I haven't found anybody better that can do it better. And the thing is that we're all going to get really good at this the more we do it, until it becomes very normal. Because it is normal. It is normal to create the life that you want to live and experience. It is not normal to feel like you have no power in your own life. It is not normal to feel oppressed by anything outside yourself. That is not normal. And if all I have to do, right, is take these teachings literally and believe that they are factual in how you apply them, and then what happens afterwards, that's enough for me, because I've put it to the test. See, I didn't just spend, at first, I definitely spent a lot of my time in my head going over it and over it, basically parroting a lot of the teachings, the truths of it. That is an important step, because if you can't parrot it back, then when it comes to the next step of actually applying it into your own, like, what you're doing with those tools, if you can't apply them, parroting is helping you remember it. You're trying to establish what does not feel normal, right? It's the most normal thing we can possibly be doing, but it doesn't feel normal. Because why? Because we've let a false sense of self, a critical voice, everything outside of us tell us what reality is. So of course it doesn't feel normal. And of course you think, wow, this is, I'm going to look crazy to other people for even saying these things out loud, much less, actually doing it. But it doesn't, none of that matters, because you practice, you understand conceptually, you understand more about what the teachings are talking about. But what makes it really exciting is when you start applying those concepts, and to the point where it's building momentum because of your focus and your attention, and then you start having experiential evidence in your own personal reality that it's working, right? If it wasn't working, then nobody would be doing this stuff. Everybody would just be trudging along, trying to figure their own stuff out and going on to the next thing and the next thing or whatever. For me, I've had enough experience in a very short amount of time, I might add, doing these, utilizing these teachings, for me to say with complete and total honesty and confidence that I've never had anything work as effectively as this for me helping my own self. So I'm going to stop here now because it's snowing out and it looks really pretty, and I want to have some hot tea, and I want to say, hey, if there's some practice that you're doing that you're finding is really helpful with Neville Goddard's teachings, share, comment below. And also, if you like this video or any of my videos, hit subscribe, because I love to have you be a part of this channel. And thank you for your presence. Until we talk again, friend.